13 stars, and welcome back to the Legend Series. Everyone loves a wrecking ball, and tonight's guest is someone who enabled his teammates to walk a foot taller when they're on the field. Sadly, we're not talking about Fat Timmy, but we're talking about another bloke whose hips and shoulders would quickly get him on a first-name basis with Michael Christian these days. So tonight we are talking to Paul Limoli, or Pill, as he was better known. So his playing efforts were terrific. And there's a couple of stories that surround Pill's career that we might spend a little bit of time on tonight. So we'll get to the footy. It's very important. But if you don't know Pill, stick around. You'll love the story that comes out in tonight's episode as well. So this bloke Pill was a joy to play football with. And I can't wait to hear the story as it plays out tonight. So welcome to the series. Hey!
Thanks, Deeks. Good to be here.
Oh, mate, great to have you on. Great to have you on. You're a lucky guest. You're getting a red wine tonight. You're not getting a beer. I feel like you're up market, mate.
Oh, mate, that's upper class. Thanks, Deeks.
That's it, mate. That's it, mate. And you look upper class with a beanie on too. That's good. So you've been watching the episodes, mate?
Mate, I have. I've found them not only a good trip down memory lane, but also learned some things I didn't know. So, mate, it's been great.
What's some of the things that caught you by surprise? What have you learnt?
I didn't realise the like, for instance, the Cougar and Butsy were mates from a long time ago. Cougar didn't play full forward really until he played with this team, which astounded me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just things like that, mate. I just probably you go through the week-to-week footy stuff and you don't really get into that sort of conversation that often. So it's been really insightful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, mate. Well, that's right. So I'm glad he found his calling in the end, the big fella. So it worked for him.
Well, the half-back flank didn't work so well for him, as he pointed out. He lasted, I think, half a game there, so before he broke his collarbone from memory.
Yeah, and I loved his story where he said, "Your name's Goo and you're playing in the ruck." That was his first game.
Yes, very good start.
Now, I'm going to start yours similar to Borby. So we're going to start with your nickname, Pill. Why?
Well, my first sort of footy season was under 16s playing for a team called Devon Meadows out in the West Gippsland Football League. And I hadn't played any footy and I hadn't even... I kind of turned up one Sunday to play my first game about halfway through the season to fill in for a side that was struggling. And coach was big on... Didn't care for your name, just wanted to know your nickname, and didn't really have one at the time. And he said, "All right, by the end of today's game, we'll have one for you." So that's fine. So anyway, I went out and played, and must have done okay. And at the end of the game, he said, "Geez, you got heaps of the Pill today, so that's going to be it, Pill." So it sort of stuck from there, and it's sort of carried on through university and sporting teams after that, and into now.
Well, that's a good nickname to have. That's a good one. I mean, it's based on good footy ability. That's a keeper.
Yeah, it's stuck around. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah. And when did you start the club? 203? Am I right?
Yeah, it was either 202 or 203. I was actually just checking out one of my study holders here to try and work it out. I reckon I played. I reckon I played at the Paran Senior Club for a season in about 202 and then came to the Clubbies a year after. Yeah.
So Laz would have been your first coach then? Right?
Yes. Yeah, he was. Yep.
Yeah, so 03 that is then. And so talk us through that. So you're at the senior club and then you've made your way, or you've got an upgrade, to us. How did that work?
Well, I was playing actually at Old Trinity in 01, playing loosely. I think I played 2 games before I had a season-ending hamstring injury or recurring hamstring injury, which is a bane of my life. But I was talking, and Justin Geary is a mate of mine from university, and he'd been saying for a few years, "Mate, you should come down and play with Paran." And so there's about 3 or 4 friends of mine from uni as well that were keen to play. So just turns out we went to the wrong Paran. We ended up playing at the senior club, not realising it was a Clubbies. So we sort of slummed it there for a year, and then upgraded ourselves to the Clubbies a year after. yeah, the rest is history.
So who was there with you at the time? So Ivan was there with you. Was Bruno with you there at the time?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, Ivan. So Travis Rankin was another guy that came across. In fact, he was just down the road from you.
150 metres. I'm pointing to him, 150 metres away. Yep.
Absolutely. So he was the big fish that Param were trying to land at the time, and we were all the veal deal, the steak knives. So, but he was there. Bruno Klimworth was there as well, and two other guys who never played at the Clubbies but played at Param at the same time.
Yep. Yeah. So it's good. So, that's good. I do see Travi around the streets. We do talk about the episodes. He'll be very excited to see you're on here, I think.
I think he would.
So I mentioned Wrecking Ball before, Pilly. And have you ever played the game Street Fighter? No, you have? So there's a character on there. For anyone who's watching this and they're trying to picture Pill as a player, if you've ever played Street Fighter and there's a character, I think it's called Blanca, and he's huddled up and just spins across, like back forward. He's straight across the screen and bang, carnage. That was you, mate. But you were more than that as a player. We'll get to the bit of the Wrecking Ball, but you were more than that. So tell us about what type of player you were on the field.
I love the contest. So the thing that I loved most about footy was I loved when you were smashing in the blokes and then the ball went out of bounds and you grab the bloke, your opponent, you lift him up and you get on with it. I love that contest. So I don't know where it sort of started, but I do remember my first senior game ever was playing for Cooey Rupp in the West Gippsland League against Beaconsfield. And I remember my first game, I went out to the half-back line to play on a guy who I didn't know who he was, and I found out later was their captain, and he played, I think, one game for Melbourne, Doug Coop. And as I ran out to him, he said to me, if you get anywhere near me today for more than a half a second, I'm going to knock your head off. And I kind of thought, I didn't like that. So first opportunity that I had, I tried to run through him, but he was a pretty big bloke. Anyway, it sort of started a bit of a brawl, and I kind of thought, I like this. This is pretty good. So I kind of enjoy that part of it. And I played mostly in the midfield as a junior, and sort of probably wasn't fit enough in my senior years to play that regularly, but enjoyed playing there, and kind of just really loved being in where the action was.
Yeah, right. And good footy skills, and as I said, you got that the intent and the size to be able to make that happen as well. It was very good. So hit me with some of your favourite memories, Pilly, as a player.
Specific memories. I think it's hard to go past the grand final. Well, we lost the grand final against Savs, but there was a few memories in that one game alone. There was Scotty Hayward at halftime as the runner, I'm pretty sure, trying to get in my face and get me fired up, which he succeeded because I nearly cocked him. Not for the first time, mind you, or the last time. But there was a moment just in the start of the third quarter when an opportunity to iron out a Zavs player came up, and you don't sort of miss those opportunities when they arrive. And I did. I got him pretty well. Although in fairness, he got up again, which was disappointing. But we nearly pinched that grand final. We came from a long way back at half time and hit the front briefly. And I think I actually either kicked the goal to put us in front or pretty close, and thought this might be one of those childhood dream moments where you kick the winning goal in the grand final, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. They hit the last two, I think, and just stole it back. Other than that, mate, I've got to be honest, I just love. I've played footy for a lot of different clubs. Probably journeyman's a pretty good description, but never found the group of guys that I found at the Two Blues that just made every single moment enjoyable. Whether it was the footy trip, whether it was training, whether it was match day, whether it was after training, after the matches, it was just unreal.
Why was that the case, you reckon?
I don't know. I've thought about it a bit. I don't know whether it's just look, I don't think it's luck. I don't think luck can bring that sort of situation on its own. I think it was probably the calibre of the people that sort of the leaders at the club, the people who've been around for a while, the people that set the standards. I think that the team had a just an unreal approach to football. It was the expectation was that you played hard and you there was no sort of mucking around come game day, but we didn't take ourselves too seriously either. It was enjoyable, and obviously it doesn't hurt to have some talent too. There were some pretty outstanding footballers in that side, which in the sides that I played in, which obviously makes it more enjoyable too when you're playing.
Yeah. And I think that's the benefit. And I think you've nailed it because people knew people who came in the club. Every footy club's got good blokes in it.
Yeah.
But I think you didn't have the tail of a few dickheads hanging around because they've just walked in from off the street. You actually had blokes around who knew each other, so they could vouch for their mates could vouch for them, I think.
For sure. And, like the stuff around the footy, I think about cork raids, being both a recipient of an unwarranted cork raid and also being on cork raid raiding teams as well. Those sorts of things just created such an unreal culture of mateship that I reckon it carried through the way we played. And I reckon also there was I think someone touched on it in a previous interview about the perception that maybe we were an arrogant bunch of guys because of the way we went about it. But in actual fact, we were just really taking the piss out of ourselves more than anything. And I just think we played with a lot of freedom and behaved that way too. It was fun.
Yeah. And it's funny enough, with that, you end up playing good footy.
For sure. Yeah. Not quite good enough to get a flag in my time there. A couple of close calls, but yeah.
No, that was close in 06, wasn't it? That was a cracking game.
It was actually probably one of the best games I've been part of, I think, just for the whole package of it.
Yeah, it certainly was. So who's some of the blokes you've loved having around the club during your time?
Yeah, it's actually really hard to so many guys bought so many different things. There were guys that I probably wouldn't normally kind of find myself having stuff in common with that I just loved. But look, everyone loves Geary. He's one of those guys who I knew before the Two Blues, but just what a cracking guy to have around. But I was thinking about it the other day. When I think about the guys at the club, I go back to nights and their memories, and I think about Mad Mondays, and I think about guys like Terry Lucas, I never played with, but probably just loved having around the club as much as anyone. Scotty Hayward, just a total pest, but great guy to have on your side and great fun. And just I think about guys like Steve Ivac who I think were too smart for a lot of the opponents he played on, and probably knew it too and used it to his advantage. And I could go on through the whole list. I feel like Bruce McAvaney saying that, but it's just such a great collection of blokes, and I think testament of that was the footy trips, which, by the way, I think that's a measure of any good club when you've got more than 100% subscription to your footy trip. The players that played in that year, they were just great fun.
Yeah. We ended up with people who hadn't played at any part of the season turning up on those. Mickey G brought his brother one year, and you're going, "What's he doing here?"
Mate, it was a crack up. A total crack up.
No, that's very good. So so 03 started with us. When did you play till?
I played till 07. I think, did we play in a granny in 07 as well?
Yep.
Or prelim?
Yeah, you did. Actually, you did play in that game. That was my last game too.
It was.
You kicked a goal, I reckon.
Say again?
Did you kick a goal in that game, I reckon?
I might have. I ended up with a crack in my foot at the end of that game, and that was kind of the end of that was the end of that sort of stanza of my Two Blues career. I did make a one-time only. Well, I made a two-time only comeback. I reckon at about it must have been 2012, 2013, something like that. I played. It was one of those desperate. Anybody who has any capacity to help out today would be great because we're very short and we're playing. I think it was Uni Blacks maybe, who I think ended up winning the flag, beating us in the granny that year, whichever year that was. So I played 2 games there, and then I ended the grand final with a hamstring. Probably should have learnt my lesson there. And then I made a comeback in 2015, just around the corner from home, for the Ascot Vale Panthers Super Rules team. Again, I was just running past the footy over out for a Sunday run, and they were short, and one thing led to another, Deeks, and all of a sudden I found myself on the footy field, and that ended with an Achilles tear. So that was kind of the full stop to football.
So obviously you're just running past the ground with your backpack on, with your footy boots and your mouth guard in it, just conveniently, or is that the way it worked?
No, actually, I was running past the ground, and an old mate of ours, Chris Henderson, Hendo, was playing for, I think, Baldwin maybe, in the Super Rules. I just didn't realise, so I saw him there and got chatting with him. And as it turns out, he said, "Mate, you should play one of these days." And I went, "Yeah, mate, I'd love that." And so as I was standing there watching him play, some guy approached and said, "Mate, you can have a kick today?" And I went, "Yeah, I think I am actually." Yeah. So I did, and yeah, it didn't end so well. I think they've changed the rules now. I don't think they'll let anyone play who hasn't at least shown their face at the club prior to the first bounce anymore. After the guy shows up, gets conscripted off the bench, and tears an Achilles. So not an ideal scenario.
Well, my intel about that was you got called out of the blue, like you've said, and you've come on and you've had about 12 touches in the first quarter, dominating. Might have kicked a goal in the first quarter as well, and then just after quarter time, off it went.
Pretty close. So my then 5-year-old son, Samuel, can talk about seeing his old man play footy, albeit for 28 minutes. The thing was, Deeks, when I agreed, I was told that the coach said, like, look, it's not that we're short, it's just that we'd like to have, a pretty lengthy bench. So you won't see a lot of time if you don't want to. And we've seen you, we've got no idea what you like. But if you want to play, you want to be on the bench, yeah, mate, it sounds good. And without a word of a lie, there was 3 calves and 2 hamstrings in the first quarter. And so I actually hurt myself just after halftime, not quarter time. But what it meant was I went from being a bit part player on the bench to being on the ball for pretty much the whole of the second half of the first quarter and the second quarter. And I was nowhere near fit enough for that. And the rest is history.
And that's it. And that's where you chucked it out. You still got your mouth guard? Still on your mouth guard at home?
No, that was a wise man told me that's the final frontier. If you get rid of that, which I did, because I did have it, Deeks. So it's unsurprising for that day.
That's right.
Yeah.
A man's not fully retired until he throws his mouth guard out, is my theory.
Well, consider me retired now.
You always find birds. You can't find a mouth guard that easy.
Correct.
So you mentioned something on the way through, and I've skipped over. We're going to come back to it now. But you mentioned corks. You're the first person who's actually mentioned corks throughout this whole series, which amazes me. And Jace is coming up in a few episodes' time, we think. So hopefully we'll get more from him. But give the listeners or the viewers a bit of a sense about what that was.
So at the start of the season, you were issued with a cork. And the expectation was that you had it everywhere at all times. And look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think some of the officiating was a bit heavy-handed at times.
Are you sure you want to say that?
I do, because I feel like the statute of limitations has passed, because I'm in no danger of being fined. But anyway, I know Stores has his. So you had to have your cork on you at all times. And there were some guys, and I can't remember exactly who, but there were some guys who just wrote off the entire year's fines as basically a club donation, which didn't save them from the ongoing ridicule, but at least that was just easier than carry a cork around all the time. There were many times when I got caught out at different social occasions, not expecting to see anybody, and didn't have the cork in my pocket, and it was a rookie mistake, but it happened. But I think my favourite part of it were cork raids, when a band of loyal sort of cork fans got together and just went and basically let's call it what it was, trespassed on people's properties to try and catch them without their corks. And there were some very funny times. I was at the end of a couple of those, some at relatively inopportune times, some at times where you couldn't really feasibly be expected to have a cork on you. And there were others that I was on that were just hilarious.
Yep. Yep. And so this sounds, if you get caught without your cork, it sounds horrendous. What was the fine? What was the penalty?
I was thinking that the other day. I can't exactly remember what it was. Was it $5 or?
Well, if 5 people caught you, it was $5. It's $1 if someone caught you without your cork. But it ruined your day.
It did.
It ruined your week. If you got caught without your cork and you gutted. It's horrendous.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, it was terrible. And, look, it was terrible, but God, it was funny though. And like, the two things that kind of stand out to me are the corks and blue food dye. Just the creative way. I mean, there was the creative ways that it was used, and there were the not so creative ways. I remember one day, I think it was in Byron, where Butsy was having trouble because he was trying to sort of sneak blue food dye into a pot of Carlton Draft, and it's just not working. Like, people are going to see it. Hadn't cottoned on to the fact that it had to go into a dark beer bottle probably to make it work.
Yeah. History will tell us how stupid that thinking was back then. I know I knew at the time, but that was the first time. That was the first execution of it. That was when he did the first night. So he slow start when he finally got there, and then started a phenomenon, didn't it?
It did. And I remember one time, I reckon it was Kerry. I reckon was just proudly saying, "No one's ever going to get me. No one's going to get me." And as he was saying it, the blue in his mouth was just visible because he'd been gotten already, but he just had no idea.
No, I don't know why he possibly thought that was going to be the case, but no, the funny was him, and Slavo mentioned in his episode and we'll get to him when Butsy gets interviewed. I think it's his 50th or 100th game, and he's captain for the day, so Stores has run the specialised drink bottle out to him. It's got food dye, and he's drinking it the whole time, and his opponent's going, "Why's your mouth blue, mate?" Yeah. And he's making the 3/4 time speech, and everyone's laughing at him. He goes, "I'm on."
Oh, that's right. It was the 3/4 time speech. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Mark that down to just a long list of things that our opposition players must have been thinking, what the hell is this club on all about?
That's right. So that's good as gold, mate. There's some terrific memories in all of that. So I'm keen to hear about your playing days, and to be frank, I've rushed through the questions a bit quicker with you this time rather than others. But frankly, there's another story I really want to get into here, and there's a young lady that sort of came into our lives, your life, around about 2004, 2005. Young lady by the name of Rachel Bucknall. Tell the viewers about Rachel. You lead it, you go with it, and I'll fill in some gaps because you weren't involved in every part of it, but I'll fill some gaps in for you. So you tell from your perspective, mate.
So I guess the story starts off early in the technology stage where the internet wasn't really, social media didn't exist. So I think it was Scotty Hayward might have set up a footy tipping competition for us through Hayward Financial Management, and one of the sort of bonuses was you could actually chat to other people in the competition by clicking on their name. And anyway, an email would come out every week after the round was finished with a bit of an update as to who tipped the most and who was winning, and bit of extra sort of commentary. And there was I think it might have been early in the season, there was a lady by the name of Rachel Bucknall who was tipping pretty well, and as I'm sitting there at my work computer reading about this woman who's just come over from Perth, and can I just say she sounded pretty good. She's worked in a modelling agency but wasn't a model, which is an important point that I'll come back to a bit later on, Deeks. Anyway, so in one of the post round emails, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Scotty was writing them and had said, or whoever was writing them had said that, look, she's just out from Perth, doesn't know many people, and it might have been a direct, I think, call out to Gears from memory to actually, maybe Gears might be someone you want to show around Melbourne. Anyway, so I just thought, look, that sounds like a good idea. Gears is a good bloke, but I don't see, he doesn't necessarily have to be the person, So I put it out there, just sent a little message across, and then started a conversation over a few weeks, which, unlike today, would have happened in the space of a day on social media. because they were email-based conversations. It was happened over a couple of weeks. Should I pause here, Deke, so you can fill in the gaps at that point?
No, you're going well, mate. You're going well. I reckon you can keep going. I'm enjoying
So,
it.
so look, we emailed back and forth a bit. And look, I didn't even broach the idea of necessarily going anywhere at this stage. It was just a bit of a chat. And then things progressed to actually, got a mobile phone number and we were just, texting. And over the space of a few weeks, we arranged what might be nice to catch up and maybe actually see each other in person, which is sounded like a good idea. So we arranged that and teed up a dinner catch up. I reckon maybe in, was it Elstonwick or Mordialloc or somewhere like that?
Elwood Lounge.
Elwood Lounge, that's it.
Had you talked to Scott on the way through about batter at any point here?
Look, yes, yeah, not again, not sort of a not in detail. It was more just a broad brush. Give me the lay of the land, Scott, and Scott did a pretty good job of just keeping it sort of keeping it simple and subtle. I mentioned before that I think some of the brilliance in the conversation was that she just seemed like a good chick. So so Scott didn't sort of allay say there was anything too concerning about following up. He actually encouraged it, which was nice. Like Scott. So we teed up a catch up at Elwood Lounge. Should I get to that part of the night?
Continue on, mate. Continue on. This is your story. I'll add bits at the end if we need to, but you keep going.
Right. It's Friday night before a game on a Saturday. So I've made my way out to Elwood Lounge and I've walked in and I've said to the guy behind the counter, got a reservation. I think it's under Rachel Bucknall. He's going, mate, there, can't see that. I went, right, okay. By the way, we'd been texting that day too. As I was sort of looking around, unsure what was going on, I spotted, I think it might have been, I think it was Roscoe Hayward first from memory. And I've said, Roscoe, mate, what are you doing here? He goes, oh, mate, Billy. He goes, mate, yeah, oh, mate, how you going? I said, good. I said, what are you doing here? He goes, oh, mate, I'm catching up with this bird. And I go, oh, mate, good on you. Yeah, me too. He goes, oh, good on you. Yeah. I go, what's her name? He goes, Rachel. I said, what? Rachel Bucknall? He goes, yeah, well, you know her. And I go, well, that's who I'm here to see. And he goes, bullshit. I go, no, serious. Okay. Well, that's interesting. So anyway, so we're standing there and then Tim Harvey sort of walks in and Roscoe goes, Tim, Roscoe, how you going? Almost a carbon copy conversation. Who are you here to see? Rachel Bucknall? Hang on a second. There's three of us here now. So as it turns out, we ended up having a lovely meal with a couple of boys from the club, including Scotty, Deeks. Were you there? I think you were there, weren't you? Yep.
Yeah, I was sitting at the table waiting for you, mate.
Waiting for us. That's right. We walked around the corner and you were sitting there. And look, to spoil the story, Rachel Bucknall was Deeks, Hey,
Figment. Yeah, I was Rachel. That whole time.
Well, you were one of Rachel.
Well, I was Rachel, but I had other people's phones, people texting you. I had different people around the edges helping out with the conversations around the edge. So it was an innocent little starting point, there in footy tipping and just where she was going until you came and just sent an email and said, "Oh, g'day, Rachel." This email popped up in my thing, sort of going, "Oh, g'day, I happen to know Justin Geary, and if you want, I can give him a bit of a rev up if you want me to get in contact." Pill. I thought, all right, hello, Pill.
And you thought, cha-ching.
So I didn't know where to go, but so Edna comes back. So why are you called Pill? And funny enough, when I asked you a question about the nickname before, I already knew the answer. Well, Rachel did. And you kept talking away, and we were engaging. And I thought, this is nice because I knew you so well as a person. Rachel could talk to you on any level that I knew would capture your interest. So innocently, you'd been emailing me, thinking it was Rachel for 3 weeks about what's going on. And then Tim Harvey came into the mix, and then Roscoe came in. He came swanning in late, 11th hour, and all three of you wanted to meet her. So you meet her, you did, at the pub 15 minutes apart.
Well, that's right. And I mentioned before that, some of the beauty in it was the subtlety. I thought it was just great script writing, Deeks, that he was a girl who worked in the modelling industry, but wasn't a model, but has filled in as a model before. Just enough there to work with. But you've obviously cast the net with a very specific purpose in mind, and reeled in a whole catch in the end.
Yeah. No, but that was the thing. It didn't start out that way. It just progressed on itself over the whole time. And look, fair enough, mate. To be honest, if Rachel was real, that's different universe. I'm Rachel. I would have gone for you, mate. Some of the things you wrote were just beautiful on the way through. And I think the emails are somewhere. I don't know where they are, but if we could ever find them, they'd be a great read again. But I felt for you. But you had an issue with kisses and hugs, mate. Yeah, you had a bit of an issue with those things, the kisses and the circles and the crosses.
Again, just a bit of friendly banter about what it all meant. But if I remember correctly, Deeks, I reckon there was a reading, wasn't there, of a whole lot of emails in the club rooms after a game. I think maybe even the next day. Yep.
So the next day, it was a Friday night dinner, right? The next day we were playing Uni Blacks, I reckon, out at Carlton.
Yeah.
At the Overs at Princess Park sort of way. And I reckon, because I was coaching then, and the boys that started off ordinary in the first, everyone started pretty ordinary in the first half and going, we should be well in front of these guys by now. So the halftime motivation speech, Pilly, was, if you guys pull your fingers out and win this game, I've got the story of all stories to tell you. Bang. Smashed it from then on and sat in, and that was a great time in the club rooms. Maybe not for you, but it was
great. Mate, it was fun. I recall also Christian?
Yeah.
Who did a bit of work too on the side as Rachel on SMS.
Yep. He was Rachel, SMS Rachel version.
Yeah, he was talking about kind of that uncomfortable feeling when you're lying in bed next to your wife in the middle of the night, responding to SMSs from a suitor who's another guy. He thinks you're a woman. He said it was a bit awkward.
Yeah. He actually got his wife to pose for photos in her undies and send them through on text. And so how he managed to get that happen, I don't know. But it was, as I said, it was an innocent sort of thing that started and built on itself, and it got to the end where it was just a behemoth. In the end, it was all sorts of things juggling in everywhere, and people running late on the night, and all of a sudden you're all there. And what I laughed about on the night at dinner was when you're all sitting there going, Rachel told me about, she used to model, and one of the others go, she told you that? She told me that. And they go, boys, she ain't real.
It took a long time for people to stop talking about her as if she was.
That's right. No,
it was very funny.
But all of you thought a fair chance on the night. I think you all came pretty well dressed, and you had a Ben Sherman polo on from memory.
You got a good memory, Deeks.
Oh, I do. I always remember a first date.
It was a good night. No, it was very well executed. It was. I want to say it was seamless, because to say anything other than that indicates that I should have cottoned on earlier. But it was very well planned and very well executed.
Just a passionate Italian man wanting to really let go, but it all wasn't a total loss for you, Billy. So this thing helped you out in the future, didn't it?
Well, it did. I mean, not long after that, I met my now wife, and which in itself is a bit of a remarkable story, but associated with the club. But so I remember on our very first date, I just thought, what the hell, I'm just going to lead with this. So we were talking, and I told the story, which is a pretty, maybe a bit of a risky thing to do on date one. But she's still here, and I think found the humour in it. Although I had a couple of mates outside the club who kind of pretty dirty about the whole thing, and I kind of went, I'm not dirty about it. I can say I can take it in the good humour that it's been delivered in. So yeah, it was fun.
And that's actually leading into my next question I had on the list was, to your absolute credit, it was a comment more than anything else, but the reason, your ability to take that on the chin and let it ride and say, well done, well played, move on, made that the story it was for years after. And that's credit to you for what you're able to do there, because not everyone could have done that, but you did.
Thanks, mate. And you know what? The beauty of the world we live in today, every year I get a little reminder to tell me it's Rachel's birthday.
August 6th.
August 6th. And it's just a good little reminder of a great story.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, she's been shut down, actually, in the last year or two, not long ago.
Yeah, I didn't see her this year.
No, I just thought, what benefit do I have of having this account open? In the world, the way the world's going, I thought, just don't need that.
You thought the real Rachel Bucknall may emerge one day.
Well, she's based off a real person originally.
That's right.
Who, that's fair to say that she wasn't a model, part-time model, from Perth, who lived in Elwood on her own looking for male companionship, as our girl was. But,
you must have had a lot of fun along the way. You must have been killing yourself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, you just think, I don't know, day to day, you don't know what to do with it. It's just sort of let it go where it goes. And then the story just kept building and building. And you guys are just throwing content towards it going, it's just landing in your lap. Like, it was just beautiful. Like, it's funny because you mentioned Ross, he came in 11th hour. He went up to Scott, like his brother, obviously, and said, what's going on with Rachel? I want to get in there. And he sort of came a bit aggressive at her on the email. And I'd become part of her persona so bad, I got genuinely offended the way he spoke to her. I thought, you can't say that to Rachel. I'm quite upset. Yeah,
it's fair to say that it seemed in the post sort of post review or wash up dinner at Elwood Lounge, it was apparent there was some different approaches undertaken by the participants. And we should say, by the way, that the main prize at the outset stayed well clear of it all too, didn't he, Gears? Didn't really get involved.
Never read his head. He gets he's not a rat.
Smarter man
than most. I think that one, yeah. No, he did stay well clear of it, and that disappointed me too. I thought I'd have him. But she lived on to many others, and all you had to do was, and the trick was, if anyone's playing a gig like this on your mates, all you need, and the pattern was from then on, was if you're out with one of your mates and they are gassed and they've probably lost a bit of memory of the night, bang, in comes Rachel. And you just sort of drop an email or however they do it these days. G'day, were you the guy I was talking to on in the red shirt or whatever it might be?
That's right.
As a matter of fact, that was me. Bang, you're home.
Brilliant.
Every bloke deep down wants a lass chasing if he's a single lad around town. So that's the way I can roll. Anyway, mate, I appreciate you being open to go into that story again. What are we at? 15 years after, Pilly.
Please. Wow.
Anyway, but it did help you get your wife. So that you used, as you said, lead story, you got your wife out of it. So that's, I feel like it's all evened itself out in the end.
Well, it did. And I touched on before, just, funny sliding doors moments. The night that I met Fee, I was lying on the couch that afternoon, and I reckon, Deeks, I think you might have sent me a message or said something after the game, saying, mate, what are you doing tonight? Want to get a bite to eat? And I said, yeah, why not? Which is kind of, you, me and Butsy went out for dinner, and that sort of isolated group had never happened before and never happened again. It was just that one night, and look, I guess I shouldn't, I shouldn't cover the cracks. I did drop you guys relatively quickly once I picked up on the idea that Fee might have been interested. But hopefully that's okay because I've ended up marrying her. So
no, true. I remember the moment we were at the Exchange in Port Melbourne. We were.
Yep.
And you were at the bar talking to her. I walked up just to offer you a drink, and you saw me. And you just turned the shoulder around and blocked. Went. Okay, got pills onto something here, and fair enough, he was. He sensed you knew something good was coming there.
I still nearly stuffed it though, Deeks, because there was a moment at the end of that story where obviously you and Butsy decided that your work there was done. It was time to move on, and so Butsy came out to the dance floor to say, "Mate, we're heading off." And I took that as the cue that we're heading off, and I said, "All right, sounds good." He goes, "No, mate, you're staying here. We're heading off." And he threw $50 in my pocket and said, "Get a cab home. See ya."
Oh, what a man.
So,
what a man. And you never know, that little $50 could have, you brought on life, you got kids, you got all this sort of stuff, and happy marriage and all this beautiful stuff. And that's a $50 that gets us started.
Absolutely.
Well, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. So there you go. That's it's not all about the foot. It's about romance and love. It's a multi-genre thing. The Clubby series. So yes, that's good. So I want to come back to your career now. So thanks for that. I'll come back to your career. What would you do the same, Pilly, and what would you do different for your footy career?
You talking about the Two Blues or in general?
Two Blues. Oh, Two Blues, but extend that on, mate. Whatever you want. But Two Blues prefer.
Oh, geez. I mean, it's easy to say. I would have appreciated it more because it got to go by quickly. But I did appreciate it a lot at the time as it was. So probably look, I wouldn't change too much about my time with Two Blues. I just had the best few years there. What I would have changed is I would have landed there a year earlier rather than making the mistake of playing at the senior club. But I wouldn't have changed anything. But I would have changed one of the grand finals at least, or maybe both. Would have been good to achieve that success. Unfortunately, for my career as it stands, I've had 5 grand final losses in my lifetime and no wins. So that's going to be stuck with me. But and you do get a bit into the guys that have played in a flag. You just something you just can't ever really play. But, I wouldn't change too much. I just had the best. I had the best time. All of it was unreal.
Yeah. That's good, mate. So have we missed anything, Pilly? Any stories you had thought of or missed on the way through here?
No. I think some of the Mad Mondays were, they were just next level. Especially look, there were certain people like Terry Lucas who just, when they injected themselves into the contest on a Mad Monday, it just went to another level. So as our song said, beer, bourbon, vodka and gin, as words, they were pretty good. As drinks, one after the other, they were frightening. And I remember seeing it undo many people at footy trips and Mad Mondays. I don't think it's in particular, Deeks. I'd love to. I noticed it was windy last week. It would have been round about the grand final at Elston Park. Gee, what a terrible ground that was to play footy at in finals. It would have been great to pinch one of those grand finals. That's probably the only thing that I would have liked to have changed. Yeah. Otherwise, mate, it was, and it obviously still is a great club, and that's obviously a legacy to, people who built it and drove it along the way in its inception.
Yeah, you're right. I was about to add to that. So since its inception too. So, and that's what's been great about these series is you get back to a Marty Varner and some of the older guys, and you think about, what's happening then is really still prominent through our era and then today. Like it's that same thread's gone right through no matter who's been in charge, but well set up. So
definitely.
You've done a great job with that. Just coming back to your Mad Mondays, remember the Tiger drinks? Remember those things?
Yeah, too.
Oh.
They're frightening. I remember one Mad Monday, very late in the piece. I reckon maybe the Limerick Arms or one of those pubs in South Melbourne. The barmaid suggested that she says, I think Hendo and I had about 2 or 3 Jaeger bombs, and she goes, I reckon you guys couldn't do 10. And Hendo and I looked at each other and went, I reckon we could. Didn't end too well, Deeks, down the side alley. Anyway,
really?
They were tough days, those Mad Mondays, but they were fun.
They were fun. And then you got to front up to work the next day, which is good news, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't make it in that particular one. I didn't make it into work for, I think, 48 hours after the completion of Mad Monday. It was a pretty big one, but yes, they were huge. They were good fun.
Lucky you run your own business, mate. That'd be hard for other blokes to manage, I would have thought.
That's right.
Yeah, good. So, Billy, what's a message for the boys who couldn't get out there this year watching this? So, what's a message you'd pass on to the guys who are still running around when they can in the jumper?
I think, it's probably the most common message, but I think you really can't understand how quickly it goes until you're looking back on it. and it does go quick. So, enjoy it. I think, when you've got a bunch of blokes who you go to war with, but you also love them as mates, it's just an unstoppable thing, and it's just the best. So, yeah, enjoy the time and don't waste it. Don't waste the time that you've got right now, even though this year's been a write-off, but, you can pick it up again.
Yeah, absolutely. That's well said, mate. No, thanks for tonight, Billy, mate. You're a terrific team, mate, to play footy with. As I said, we all walk taller when you're on the field. So we go, Billy, go and sort him out. And whoop, flanker, bang, back, forward. Off you go. And, but every time you put the jumper on, your passion was there for the club and the team and your mates around you. And it was evident every time you played footy that you'd loved being out there, as you've said tonight. So I loved having you around the club, mate. Congratulations on a terrific career, and thanks very much for participating tonight.
Thanks, mate. I wore a good jumper too, Deke. So I wore yours, mate, for my career. So I was pretty lucky to have that. So, mate, I love playing with you too and playing for you. And, yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Mate, you're a star. Pilly, you are a clubby legend, mate. So thanks very much for tonight.
Thanks, Deke. Cheers, mate.
And signing off for this week, team. Thanks, Pilly, again, mate. But remember, boys, we are the mighty Clubbies. See you, boys.